video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello and welcome to The Week in Gaming. My name is Simon Miller and thank you very much for joining me on this January day. If you've never listened before, this is indeed a podcast about video games. Hopefully the title has been well enough named that you know what we're talking about before you click, but I always like to be inclusive. As always, I am joined by the one and only Sam. Bishop Sam, how are we doing today?
Doing fantastic. How about you?
Fantastic. I like that. No one ever says fantastic. These are the words I like to hear.
Up, everyone's always like, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
No one actually means it either. When you actually say, how you doing? You could say whatever you wanted, and most people just be like, I wasn't listening to what you were saying. Yeah. But yeah, we go live once a week, sometimes on a Monday, sometimes on a Tuesday, sometimes on a Friday, but please do head over to the iTunes store and subscribe, and that way you'll just get a little notification, and you'll know what to do, and all of this, as all my podcasts and other bits of nonsense that I do on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/the-report rules, are supported by patreon.com/Simon316. There's links in everywhere where you're listening to this. If you can give me $1, that would rock my world. Now, we are still in January. I mean, Resident Evil 2 came out, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. We touched upon it last week. But we are still waiting for kind of a surge in games, which I think is why EA decided, hey, man, wouldn't this be a great weekend to release the Anthem demo? It came with, basically, if you pre-ordered it, you could check out Anthem, which as we've talked about here on this podcast, and I saw a lot of other people tweeting and social mediaing over the weekend. It is an important game for Bioware, depending on what you think of their most recent output. Like, it's not actually as bad as some people make out, but I do think Mass Effect 4 or Mass Effect Andromeda kind of dented the positive bandwagon a little bit. Like, I actually went back and thought about it and read some stuff. I don't think it's as bad, like I say, as people made it, but whatever. Perception is reality. That's what people think. Now, you know, hands in the air. I'm not going to get too mad about it because it's a beta. You know, it's not a finished product. And I feel like every time I've ever tried to sign on to one of these, there's always been problems. So it seems really unfair to point the finger at EA and Bioware, go, well, Anthem didn't work. But no, I couldn't get on when I tried, which was a shame. I wanted to play it, but I don't necessarily, I get the frustration, but I also don't necessarily think it seems to be an industry-wide problem, is my point. It isn't the first time this has happened. But Sam, you got on, correct?
I did. I got on I had the problems as well. Like you, I don't really want to lambast it too much for like its technical issues, because I know people make the argument that it wasn't a beta, it was a demo. People had to pay pre-order the game to get this, and I get why people would be mad. But I mean, for me right now, I would rather judge a game's technical performance on its finished final product. So yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about that either.
And I will say as well, Sam is 100% right. You know, if you had paid for it, and one of the things that got you through the door was the pre-ordering to get this, and you can't get on, of course that sucks, and it's not fair, and it's not right. If you pay, it's like the Fallout bag when they sent people bin bags as opposed to nice canvas bags. It's not right, but I feel like in this situation, especially, and I'm happy to people to get in touch and tell me I'm wrong. I don't feel like this. Well, it certainly wasn't intentional, but it certainly felt like this was something that came as a surprise to everybody that end as well. I don't think this was. I'm not saying that anybody else has conned anyone. I'm just saying in this situation, it just seemed like, you know what it's like when, for example, I make a lot of videos, and sometimes you go to edit the video for a deadline, and you have to get in touch with the people who are waiting for videos. Say, look, I'm really sorry, my whole system has just gone down. You just don't know what to do, and you're trying to deal with it as best you can, but you can't because you're at the mercy of technology. Anyway, that out of the way. I saw a lot of mixed things, so I went out and read some previews and what people thought, and I saw the word potential. I also saw words saying I don't get it. So again, it certainly seems split. But Sam, I mean, as a man that's obviously played it firsthand, what did you think?
I think it didn't benefit from throwing you straight into the action. I think they wanted everyone to be at level 10 because that's what you started with, so they could give you as much sort of mechanically driven, you're thrown straight into it, no wasted time on introductions, as they could. And I think that's sort of a good idea for some games. But I think just because they're trying a lot of new things, like this is a Bioware game, but there's a lot of flying with the javelin and everything, I learned stuff at the end of the session that would have been helpful to have a tutorial with at the first place. And I would have sat through, maybe not an hour tutorial, but just a little bit of tutorial missions, just to sort of get a feel, because you're introducing these people that have paid the pre-order demo, you're introducing these people to the game, right? And I think it would have been stronger for them to lead with a bit of a tutorial to what's going on in the world. But you figure out how to fly, you figure out how to cool down and stuff. And mechanically, it's very good. But I think why everyone's so like, I will come back to the mechanics, but I think why everyone's so sort of like confused about it is because it feels inherently like Destiny. It's not a shared world.
Oh no,
but it's not exactly like Destiny, but in the sense that you go out and you do these missions and you get this incremental loot upgrades and stuff. It's not exactly the same. It's not a shared world. I don't want people to be like, it's nothing like Destiny, but like it makes people think of Destiny. There's a reason that everyone keeps coming back to the Destiny comparison. I think that's because Destiny was so mechanically great, but it didn't have that hook to keep you in for hours and hours and hours, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the hardest thing for me to assess the game is going to be whether it can keep me hooked for past the campaign, which is, I don't know, I think it's estimated to be 20 hours long, same with Anthem. So it's a sizable campaign. So if it keeps going past that will be the real test with Anthem. But I mean, mechanically speaking, it's really third person combat. The javelins are really cool. It's got that verticality about it. The worlds are huge. There's so much guns, and like every time you finish a mission you get like tons and tons of loot. So there's that real hook to sort of, that Destiny hook, again going back to Destiny, where you're like, oh, my weapon level is 158, but then you get something that's 159 and then you're like, yes. It's that sort of like just always fetching for the higher numbers sort of thing. That I can see why people aren't for Anthem. But again, I think just the way they've framed this demo, I don't think they've advertised the product in the best possible way. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it's just not really indicative of the final product. And obviously it's hard because you don't want to bog people down with just opening of a game if they only have 3 days to play it. So hopefully people will get a better idea in the open demo, which come in this weekend. And yeah, it's a hard one to assess, but we don't know anything of the story yet. Well, there was story in there, but it was mid-game story, so none of it sort of had context. It was just a few missions with this guy named Matthias or something. So yeah, as a new Bioware fan that likes their stories, I can't talk about that really. But yeah, I mean, I was cautiously optimistic. It's not like it's changed my mind though. I'm still just as on the fence. So
in terms of, because I am probably in the minority when I say this, but we'll treat it as read that I imagine some people will believe this depending on which era Bioware you like. My favourite thing about Bioware is they had a very particular style. For example, my two favourite Bioware games are KOTOR and Dragon Age, because essentially one is that kind of RPG in space, and the other one is that kind of RPG in Fantasyland. Like, it's literally the same game, really, and I say that as a compliment. I enjoyed the switching of the environments. Does this play like anything else that Bioware has done? Like, can you feel Inquisition, influences or anything like that? Or does it actually feel like a team at Bioware has sat down, looked at the current market and gone, for example, I rag on Destiny. It's only a joke. It's only because I don't think Destiny lived up to the potential I wanted to from Bungie, a developer I like very much with Halo. Do you think it's that kind of approach, or do you think it kind of feels like a step forward for what Bioware has done before? Because I don't necessarily feel like they need to do that. I feel like they're a studio that has enough experience within themselves to kind of evolve their own games as opposed to need to get inspiration from others.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to give me those two options, it would feel more like they were looking at the current market and adapting to that rather than doing their own thing. Because what it is it feels like the only thing that reminded me of any other Bioware game, because I've played Mass Effect 1 as well, and the only thing that reminded me of it is the big open worlds. Like, in Dragon Age, when you go to one place and it's a big open hub and then you do different things there. And that was the only thing that really reminded me of another Bioware game. And the only, again, we don't have much story in this demo, but the only story that I did see and the only dialogue options were one of two choices in pretty small dialogue options here and there. The only way it was sort of given to you is someone in your ear in the missions sort of narrating the stuff that you were doing. It wasn't very story driven, so that's something that's really going to prove the test of time when it actually launches, how much that story pervades through. So yeah, I would say it's probably looking at something like because it's been referred to as a live service a lot recently, And I think that's more of what they're going for rather than a Bioware RPG. I don't think this is a Bioware RPG.
Right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't want to crap on it too much because you should try new things. We've talked about that here on the podcast before. You shouldn't limit yourself. I guess the thing that upsets me there is, look, it could be this type of game that wins me over, but that therein lies my point. So far, if we take games like Destiny and The Division, and I'm sure there's other ones I can't think of right now, they're not necessarily games that have hooked their teeth into me as of yet, but maybe it's because they haven't approached it in the way that I need it. BioWare always managed to do that with their story, and this kind of feels like it's going to be more of a narrative you create yourself as opposed to one where they've sat down and written an actual script for it.
Yeah.
That... I'm not going to say it disappoints me because I don't know, but I hope they're working on something else where they do that, because I think they've proven time and time again they're really one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really bewildered me is that, I don't know if you know, but there's a hub world called Fort Tarsis, and there's a couple of things that just don't really sit right with me. I think for one of these games, you'd like it to be social all the time as well. Like, you go with your friends to the hub world, like Destiny, it's that social space, right? And I know they have got a social space, but the hub world in itself, which is Fort Tarsis, the home place, that is single player, that is first person, and it's really slow walking speed. And it's so you're just sort of slowly walking around this large hub world. It's just really lifeless and boring, and I don't really understand why you do it. It's like Monster Hunter World in the sense you have to go there, get your stuff, and then get ready in your suit to go out and then invite your friends in. Whereas if I was making a game like this, I'd probably make it social all the time. Like, you go to the hub world with your friends, you hang out, you do these dances and emotes that you piss about, then you go out on another mission together. It's a little thing, but it makes it all feel a little more like stop and start and a little less organic.
I would never, ever rag on a game before we know more about it, right? Because you don't judge a game by the demo, and I didn't even play it. I couldn't get it.
You don't judge a film by a trailer in the same.
Exactly, because you don't know how it's been edited, you don't know how it's been cut. I don't know that many people in the film world, but I know a few people that make. They don't make films, but they're a part of major films that they basically have an idea of what the movie is. And they see the trailer and they say to me, that is not how I would have cut that trailer at all. Again, everybody's different, but their point being, you can frame, again, the classic example is if you go on YouTube and type in Mary Poppins horror trailer, somebody has wonderfully re-edited that to make it like a horror film. And it works really well. Like, it actually comes across like Mary Poppins is a sociopath, or a psychopath, sorry. So in that sense, to push that to one side, I am just, as we talked about here on the Week in Gaming, we've always said we didn't really know what Anthem was. We had an idea, and deliberately, I think Bioware and EA were very quiet about it. And, from a purely listening to what you've got to say point of view, I'm not sure this is what I would have written down if someone said, what do you want from the next BioWare game? Although I hope I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I mean, I am very unfairly, I am basing it on my opinions of games that are not developed by them, because I'm just worried that type of game is never going to get me. But then that's like Red Dead Redemption 2. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is a masterpiece, but it's not my game because I don't like survival mechanics. Same with Breath in the Wild. That's why it didn't get me. Probably same with Inquisition to a certain. I know it's got survival mechanics, but it kind of has those kind of ideas. So if this does go in that direction, I'm always going to be a bit wary of it. In the same way, if someone says to me, Simon, do you want to play... what genre do I don't know? I don't know. I can't think of a genre I don't like. But, if it's a genre you don't like anyway, there is an extra barrier before you're going to start to understand it. I'm just surprised because I feel like BioWare's strength is in the story, and that doesn't seem to be the most important part about it. It just surprises me.
Yeah, and one other thing before we move on, it's like I really like how they approached the difficulty, because there was one mission where you had to overtake a fort or something, and I was playing with friends because you could play multiplayer in this, and if you didn't have 4 javelins or 4 players with you, it was so tough. You really need to make use of the space and make use of the verticality and think about what you're doing rather than just because I've only played, like I said, a small selection of BioWare games, but the combat was never really the selling point, obviously. But this is you need to manage the space perfectly, and you need to make sure you've got the best loadout possible and manage all 4 people in your party. That's just on normal difficulty as well. And there's it's like Diablo, so there's hard, and then there's 3 more levels afterwards, which can drop better loot. So that's going to be a real challenge, and I think that's going to be the real hook to get people, because obviously one of the hooks of again Destiny is those high level raids that drop stuff, but they're really hard, and I think that's one of the reasons I think it might get a really dedicated community to really smash those high level challenges. All
right, well, there we go. I mean, you need friends, right? I know you kind of touched there, but you can't see anybody playing this without friends.
And you do get thrown into, like, every time you go into an expedition, you do get thrown in with 3 other randoms if you don't have 3 other friends, or you just get a few other friends in your squad or whatever. So it's just much more, because you're going to be playing with other people anyway. So you might as well, it'll be much more fun if you have friends to play with.
Oh well, we'll see what happens. Again, we've got another beta this weekend, right? Where everyone can play. Is that correct?
Yes, it's an open one, yeah.
Yeah, so everyone, you can jump on that and you can let us know what you think about it. I'm going to be intrigued to see in which direction we head. I hope that it proves us all wrong. And games have done that before, especially when it comes to demo. The biggest story I've ever got about a demo is The Last of Us demo. I played that and I did a video for Video Gamer at the time, which you can go watch now. Look how fat I am. And no one realised at the time I was well fat. Anyway, not the point. I played that demo and I thought it was going to be an absolute joke of a video game. It didn't make any sense the way that it was put together. It just seemed like a game where you put down planks and shot nothing. But the reason it was, the reason it felt so lackluster, I get, and mundane, is because it came straight after a really sort of high intentional emotional bit, and very smartly Naughty Dog decided, okay, we have to have a down moment here. But I still think it's one of the worst demos I ever played in terms of telling people what the context of a video game is. But it didn't matter. It came out. I loved it. It was one of my favorite games. It smashed, people are desperate for the sequel, so there's every chance. I guess it's a bit different because this is a bit more free than that, isn't it? Like, it's a bit more of an open worldy blah blah blah. So my point is, we'll wait and see. It doesn't officially come out until February the 9th, is it? 7th, something like that? I
think it's 22nd.
Okay, miles away then.
Late February.
Oh no, you're right. It is. You're right. It's late February, right? So a month essentially. We will have to wait and see, but I know a lot of people were talking about it. And I saw loads of people saying they loved it. I will definitely 100% play it properly when it comes out, and we can take it from there. But you sound like you're still on board. You don't sound like you've been put off by it at all.
It's like cautiously optimistic. I think it's one of those games that will really fill that, even if it's only for the campaign. Like Destiny 2 filled the itch they needed to, just a very short amount of time. And I think this will do the same, even if it doesn't have great end game content. So yeah, I think I'll get it. Maybe not at launch, but yeah, I'll get it.
I would just be disappointed if there's no twists and turns of story. I think that's what Bioware does best. It's brilliant, like genuinely brilliant. I think to move away from that would be interesting. I'll go with that. I would be interesting. I would be surprised.
Yeah,
I would be surprised, but hey, we'll wait and see. All we can do is wait and see. But yes, that is the Anthem demo. Jeez, where the hell did I guess? Because we mentioned so many games. That is the Anthem demo, and we will return. I guess we'll return to it next week as well. If we can both get on the open one, and then in a few weeks we'll jump on it properly and see what they've done. Did you play any more Resident? I can't remember. Did you play Resident Evil or not? I know you played the preview stuff.
I've played
didn't you?
it
The
before,
preview. That's right.
I don't have it. So.
Yeah, so I played more of the game. I don't have much more to say than I did last year. A few people sent me messages going, how can you review it if you never played it properly? As a quick aside, I think the word review has been destroyed over, basically based on what people assume a review to be. I think you're more than, when people go down, I sound like I'm on Video Gamer again, but when people go and discuss, video games in the pub, some have played it for 5 minutes, some have played it for 20 minutes. I think it's completely different if we worked for an outlet. But when it's just two dudes talking about video games, for me personally, I don't think there's any rules. Like, this is my review of it so far, and I'll get back to it. I'll get back to it as and when. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I always get, this isn't a review. I'm like, dude, just because that's how IGN reviewed games for 20 years. Anyway, well, this is literally why I used to have conversations with Video Gamer. The point being is that we will continually come back to it the more that we play it. I played it a bit more, and surprise, surprise, I kind of come down on the same side that I had back then. Atmosphere incredible, really well worked. Just an absolute testament to Capcom. Again, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but if remakes are going to become, well, if they're still going to go on going forward and more people want inspiration of how to do it, this is the way to do it. Because I've seen so many people playing Resident Evil for the first time saying, wow, it's amazing, and now they're interested in the other games. And I don't think they could go back to something like Resident Evil 3, but they could absolutely go to Resident Evil 4 or 5, or maybe not 6, but they could do, especially Resident Evil 7. I can certainly see people working their way back to that, even though they're not exactly the same. You can kind of see some connections between the two. But ultimately, it's just a fantastic use of the catalogue they have as well. I know they've plowed millions of dollars into it, but if something like Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out now and it doesn't act like this does, where it feels like this wonderful amalgamation of old and new, I think you will be allowed to put your hands up and go, well, wait a minute, what exactly were we trying to achieve here? Maybe they're going after something different, Square Enix. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody there about it. But specifically with Resident Evil 2, I think it's an incredible marketing I don't call it a ploy because that makes it sound negative, but an idea from Capcom, because it really is going to it's going to bring the Resident Evil franchise back into prominence to a new generation that's probably never played it. And also, it's a damn good game in its own right. It is scary. The atmosphere is horrible. It makes me, want to die inside a little bit. Hence why I'm not getting through it as quickly as I may like, and also why I haven't live streamed it yet because I'm too much of a coward. But yeah, it's brilliant. Like, it's really, really good. And so far, I haven't seen one person say otherwise. Do you know what I mean? I haven't seen one person come out and say, I think this is a bad game. Some people understandably would have rather something that was more true to the original, and I think that's fine. But again, personally for me, I wouldn't do that just because that already exists. I think this is a much more smart way to bring something back to life while also, like I say, reaching out to people that had never played it before. I think the worst score that I saw was like a 7. I mean, that's not too bad at all. Not that scores mean much. And even our man, that's been on the wrestling podcast before, if you listen to that, even, Jim Sterling was a big fan of it. And that is someone that doesn't mince his words by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, it's really like playing, something that's going to spark your nostalgia mixed with something brand new. And that's why it's so good. When else do you get to say that? This feels like something I've already played, but also something that I've never played. I think it's great. I think it's really good. And I think, I don't know what else is coming out in January. I imagine it's definitely the best game of the month. I mean,
Kingdom Hearts today.
But I was going to say, Kingdom Hearts we'll talk about in a minute, but as we've established before, we are going to talk about it a little bit, but as we've established before, neither Sam or I are anywhere near as educated to talk about that. In fact, we're going to do it now, and you are going to get mad. I've told you, that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler right now. How do you want to approach Kingdom Hearts? Have you played any of it? Have you seen anything to do with it? Otherwise, I'm just going to go get up the Metacritic thing and we'll talk about how it's doing in that sense.
Nothing.
Right. So. Okay. So I'm going to do it that way. Transparency and honesty, I think, is the main thing. You can't be a fan of every single game that comes out. It's just not realistic. So these things are always going to come up, but I feel like it's remiss of us to do a gaming podcast and not talk about Kingdom Hearts 3. I understand, people have been waiting, talking about, sort of the power of fanism. People have been waiting for this game for ages. It's one of those games where I also don't understand how it's Kingdom Hearts 3 because there's around about 700 Kingdom Hearts games. So how it's only Kingdom Hearts 3, I'll never understand. But it comes out today. At the moment, it's got a Metacritic score of 88. Yeah. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up the VG247 one because Metacritic comes out with a lot of
outliers.
Yeah, and I'm like, who the hell is that? Like, it's just some random people I've never heard of. If they're going to have it, I need to find it. This was a terrible idea to come up with on the fly. I mean, my thing, I did play Kingdom Hearts. Oh man, I think either 1 or 2, and it just straight away I could have told you it's not really my cup of tea. It just I can't explain why. But that's all I can talk about. And I think the idea is cool. I'm always amazed that somehow Final Fantasy was able to team up with Disney to make this, given especially now what Disney have become. I can't even imagine what kind of licensings or costs are involved. But hey, it's there and it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, it looks like a really interesting game because it's always amazed me how it's got such a wild, convoluted story, yet it's partnered with Disney. I'm just like, those things just don't seem to go together in my mind. I guess there's two people playing it. There's people playing, I don't know what's going on, but there's Disney at least. And then there's other people like, I love it when Sora does this in 2.5 HD remix in the Dream chapters. It's like, so yeah, you got the two people, and I guess they're just sort of like, even if you don't know what's going on, they're still Disney. I guess that's what I'd be like, at least.
I would wonder if you'd actually be able to make this relationship these days, because Disney's is so big. I don't think there'd be enough money. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'm not the person to talk about it. Anyway, I do have a list up. So just a quick rundown so you get an idea of what it's like. Games Radar gave it 4 out of 5. US Gamer gave it 4.5 out of 5. Press Start gave it 9. IGN 8.7. GameSpot 8. And Eurogamer Italy 8. And I think Eurogamer did review it, but I'm going to assume they didn't give it a recommended. I have it up here. I will click it. No, they didn't. Eurogamer did not give it any kind of recommended and just called it overwrought, unsatisfying storytelling takes the shine off a gorgeous and ambitious finale. So I do know the person that wrote it, but I won't say his name because I imagine he's getting loads of hate today. So shout out to my man Chris. That's all I say. Shout out to my man Chris. I'm not saying he's wrong, by the way. I'm just saying I know how passionate those fans are. And unless you say this is the best thing ever, they're probably going to come after you. So there you go. That's all I've got. I don't think I have to about Kingdom Hearts. I don't know what else to say. I hope everybody's playing it, is really enjoying it. That's all I got. That's it. What I do want to talk about is, when the hell was it? Like Friday? I think it was Friday. Metroid Prime 4. Nintendo came out with a very classy video, I thought. That
video you did about it was great.
Well, I was going to mention that too. Thank you, Sam. You set me up perfectly. I had an hour window on Friday. And essentially, I'll run through my thought process for it. So Metroid Prime 4, like I say, Nintendo came out, they released this video, very, very classy, saying, they went to check out Metroid Prime 4. It wasn't doing what they wanted, so they've taken development away from where it was, and they've given it back to Retro Studios, who made the Metroid Prime trilogy, which essentially means they've got to start again, so don't expect to see it for 2-3 years. However, the whole time I was watching it going, I thought Namco Bandai was making this. And after doing a bit of research, I don't actually think it was properly confirmed that they were, but there was enough rumours to insinuate that it was true, and especially if this has happened, you have to imagine they had two different ideas. And because I'm 8 years old, all I kept thinking was, imagine it was because Namco just want to make Pac-Man. And Nintendo were like, please, no, but just do it. So you can go to my YouTube channel right now. This podcast will be up there as well. YouTube.com/The Minute Report Rules. It was one of the last videos. Just scroll down. You'll see it. It's called The Real Reason Nintendo Delayed Metroid Prime or whatever. And I basically just redubbed all the subtitles. Not redubbed, rewrote all the subtitles to make it sound like Nintendo had found out that it was actually Pac-Man and they didn't want it, so it's just the dumbest stuff. And I wasn't going to put it up. Here's some behind the scenes. I wasn't going to put it up, but then I watched it and I laughed at my own joke within 30 seconds. I know, I'm putting it up.
That sounded like a good joke.
It's true, because I was in two worlds. I was like, one, is this too dumb? And that's never stopped me before, but I thought, okay, there must be something else if I'm thinking that. And then I did have this worry. I was like, is this like offensive? Are people going to think that? Because the joke isn't the subtitles, the joke is what he may be saying. And then I realised I was overthinking it massively and it made me laugh, so it went up. But yeah, I mean, I thought, again, the original video I thought was really classy. I really, really did. Yeah. And also, it makes me wonder maybe they were making Pac-Man. I mean, what a huge shift to make, because Metroid Prime 4 was always the game I felt Nintendo were making to appease its hardcore base. I don't think they think that's going to sell that many copies. I don't know what Metroid Prime 3 sold, but I bet it wasn't, over the moon. I bet it wasn't like massive or anything like Breath of the Wild or even Mario Odyssey. In fact, I'll try and find it in a minute, Sam, when you weigh in. But for them to come out and be so honest and essentially say to these people, look, you're going to have to wait a damn long time. In a long time, the Switch came out in 2017? Is that right? Yeah, it's 2017. And you're not going to get this at the earliest, I would say, 2021. If you're lucky, 2021. Probably 2022 if they're starting again now. And by that point, you could even argue Nintendo may be moving on to something else entirely. And then the real kicker was that apparently Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Switch also got cancelled. So it's kind of like, if you're a Metroid fan, you haven't had a good day. So yeah, I was surprised. I was just really, really surprised.
It's really like, in some ways, it's sort of like, I was really like, cool, great, nice. I'm not a huge Metroid fan, so I'm obviously not one of the people waiting patiently for a sequel, but it takes a lot, and there's only a certain amount of people in the world that can afford like actually time and money to say like, look, it's not good enough, it's not what we want to give the fans, let's scrap it all, let's bin it, let's try again. We realise that it's not what we want, and that's a good thing in my mind. You'd rather get true to life, best as it could be, Metroid Prime 4 surely, rather than a sort of, it probably would have been okay Metroid Prime 4. If you waited this long, you might as well wait a bit longer for a really good product, in my mind.
No, I totally agree with you. I just looked it up as well. And I mean, Metroid Prime 3, I understand it's different. It's the end of a life cycle, and the Wii wasn't what it once was there. But it sold 1.31 million copies worldwide. So it's again, like, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head there. If it was anybody else but Nintendo, and there was a bunch of people trying to pitch to, I don't know, a Namco or I can't think, it doesn't matter, but trying to pitch, look, we need to make this game, it would absolutely be turned down, because they'd say it didn't sell enough. I mean, 1.31 is not bad, but worldwide is not really enough for a company to put in. So Yeah, you're right though. You're right. It's the situation that Nintendo finds themselves in. They can say, look, we can hold off on this. It's not going to affect their bottom line. It's not going to shift things too much. They're still Nintendo. The train keeps on rocking regardless. And in that sense, I don't know. I just think it was a really good way for a company to handle it. Again, of course, it comes down to their situation. But they got out of that scenario without any hate whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's a lot. Because if someone announced they were I don't know, delaying anything else, it'd be like, oh no. But this is sort of okay. I think a lot of more developers should be a bit more upfront about it. Just stepping in front of the camera does a lot. Because a blog post can seem a bit impersonal sort of thing, whereas just getting in front of me and listen, this is what's happening. It's not great, but this is what's happening. That was good. I thought it was really, really nice touch.
No, I did, and I got a joke out of it. So
exactly.
Thanks, Nintendo. They're saying that not a lot of people watched that video. I think because it went over a lot of people's heads. I think a lot of people thought it was just real. But go watch it now. Go watch it now. I should have tied this into Resident Evil 2 when we were talking about copies, and this kind of sums it up. Resident Evil 2 has already sold 3 million copies, which for a game that's already come out once is ridiculous. You'd have to imagine that. I mean, because Metroid Prime. Not Metroid Prime. Resident Evil 7, I don't think sold as well as they wanted it to, did it? I imagine
Resident Evil 7 has sold 6 million in its lifetime.
Well, there you go, right?
So Resident Evil 2 is half that. Well, it's shipped for Resident Evil 2. I think that makes a slight bit of difference.
You're right, it does. Yeah, it does. It just means they're sat in stores somewhere. But it just makes the difference to Capcom. Capcom have still sold that, which is incredible, right? Which goes to show that, again, that love of nostalgia is there, but also that if they wanted to ramp up the whole Resident Evil, whatever you want to call it, they've done it. And now apparently they're already working on another one as well. This could be Capcom's whole business model, and they'd probably get away with it, which is obscene. That is not how this is meant to work.
I would love a Resident Evil 8, a continuation from 7, because 7 was just so. I feel like 7. People say it's good, but people don't rave about it. I think it's underrated. I think Resident Evil 7 is absolutely fantastic. Oh, I would love to see them do more of that, because it seemed like it was Resident Evil 7, and I was like, okay, that's good. But then Resident Evil 2 was like, yes! And I guess that's because it's more of the history. It's got that, putting this beloved game into people's hands 21 years later. But, another Resident Evil with the Resident Evil 7 style would be absolutely fantastic as well.
I struggled to play 7, obviously, because it is just PT reborn, and PT is the worst video game ever. Intentionally so, but it still is. But no, I thought they did really good with that. Especially, again, this is why I think Capcom deserve credit, and I'm sure we've talked about it before, but whatever. In terms of taking their old properties and bringing them into the modern day, I thought 7 did that brilliantly. Turned it first person, looked at something like PT that they knew wasn't going to come out and wasn't going to be a competitor, and yet had this huge buzz. Obviously didn't capitalize that on much as they probably wanted to, because I think it probably would have sold more. Maybe there was a lot of bad blood just around the whole Silent Hills thing. But still, from a purely creative point of view, that was a damn good video game. The whole build of that when you're outside and you get in the house, and by the end it's gone a bit crazy, but you got to change things up. It's a 10-hour game. You can't do the same thing over and over again. But no, I thought it was fantastic. Again, not something I can play that easily, but just great all around. The other thing, and Sam, I'm going to divvy to you a little bit on this, but we'll weigh in. You told me before we started, and I was genuinely quite fascinated by it. There's a couple other stuff that we'll talk about off the back of this as well. So Metro, whatever the third one's called, has now got Exodus, that's it, has got an exclusive deal for PC owners where for a whole year it's only going to be available, not on Steam, which I'm sure was a lot of people's first thoughts, and there is more to this, hence why we're talking about it, but on the Epic Store. I mean, that's weird, right?
Yeah, it sort of shows, it's not totally surprising because Epic has been making a few moves, and that Epic Game Store, I was like, oh, it's Epic. Oh, they're doing a game store, right? And then they got The Walking Dead final season. They did the same thing with that. So for both of these deals with The Walking Dead and Metro, if you bought it on Steam, you'll still get it via Steam. You'll still get a future DLC via Steam, but you can no longer purchase it now on Steam. It is now exclusive to Epic. And yeah, it's crazy. It's a big statement of intent. It's a big game as well. It's not like, because Walking Dead's final season, you'd probably be like, okay, cool, yeah, it's on Epic, whatever. But Metro Exodus is a game that a lot of people are hyped about, and it sort of shows like if they're such a big game and they're willing to move over to Epic, I can see a lot of people doing that. I think that's a lot why a lot of people a sort of, oh, okay, this could be big for Steam as well. Valve weren't happy. They posted a statement on the Steam store saying they think it's unfair to customers. It's very short notice. The game is out on February 15th and it is now January 29th. So it's just over 2 weeks for this to be announced. But yeah, I think it's bigger news than people think. Because of what it might mean moving forwards. But then again, if Metro releases on Epic Store and then performs horribly, and then there's problems with the Epic Store, that is not going to be good for the Epic Store either.
So essentially, but this is what I mean, it is kind of like a shot by Epic to say, we're coming at you, Steam, right? We're going to try and compete with you.
Yeah, a lot of the headlines have been like, Epic starts a war with Steam, and I think that's it. Like, because everyone's talking about getting it on Steam because they were talking about the de novo support on Steam and the PC specs been released and everything, and it's gearing up, and then suddenly it's like Epic like yoink, like just taking out the rug from under them, and it's crazy. It also is coming to Steam. We should clarify, it's coming to Steam on February 14th, 2020. It's got years of exclusivity, but I mean, like the first year is a big deal, right?
Oh, man, massively. I mean, it was like Tomb Raider, right? When it came out on PS4 a year later, no one gave a crap. Nobody cared because they were like, well, if you wanted to play it, you probably wouldn't have your way to play it one way or the other. Yeah. And now there's other games that we want to talk about. Like, technology, especially in video games, moves so fast that you do forget. And you do kind of think, well, I don't care what they do, with that anymore. Of course you do. That's what everybody thinks.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in Metro when it's released.
Do you think it's going to work? Do you think it's actually going to take a piece out of the Steam pipe? Because I mean, that is like someone saying, oh, I'm going to make a new video console, I want to come after the PlayStation and Xbox. To me anyway, like, I'm not a huge PC guy, never really have been, just the way of it. I mean, do you actually think Epic even has a chance to make a dent in it? Because to me, again, if someone came to me and said, Simon, I want to compete with the PlayStation, I'd be like, you're mad. Like, how the hell are you even gonna, where do you even start? They have such a user base and so much brand recognition, like, especially more so on PC. Like, when you think about PC, no one thinks about games for Windows, whatever the hell it was called. Everyone just thinks about Steam. That was. It's almost like when people talk about UFC in the modern day. Like, obviously, UFC is the brand and the sport is mixed martial arts, but you'll get casual fans say, "Oh, do you watch the UFC?" Because that's what they know. And to me, Steam kind of fits into that remit. Same with wrestling. They say, "Oh, do you watch the WWE?" Do you actually think it has any chance of cutting through all of this?
I think so, because it's one of those things, I think, especially with indie devs, and obviously this could appeal to all devs. A lot of people have said that like they like the revenue model because it's 70-30 for Steam. And I think some, especially indies who don't get as much revenue, I think they aren't very happy with that. But with Epic, it's 88-12. So 70 for the developer at Steam, and then it would be 88% of the revenue on Epic. The Discord store, that's 90-10. But I'm not sure if the Discord store is going to take off as much. But I mean, like, Epic it's a trusted name, right? So if Epic, this big company, one of the biggest in the world right now, they're offering you a better cut of the revenue. And obviously, if it goes well for The Walking Dead and Metro and these games that are getting exclusivity, people are going to be like, why don't we do it? Let's do it. Yeah. And I think if it does, then Steam have got to rethink what they're doing, because I think Steam could do what they wanted. I'm not saying they're monsters, but they can sort of do what they want when they're the monopoly. Like you say, nobody was there to challenge them, so they're just like, yeah, whatever, let's do what we want. But now that can only be a good thing, because competition is good because it increases everyone's standards. So yeah, it's just going to be good to have a bit of competition, even if it doesn't swing in Epic's favour.
No, I agree. Do you think the confidence ties in to everything to do with Fortnite? Because obviously they made so much money from that, and not only gives us it gives them more disposable revenue, disposable cash, but it also kind of gives them name value, and it does make them a bigger player within the video game space. Because as of right now, they do own and control the biggest game in the world. Do you think it kind of all stems from that?
I think it can't hurt, because like if someone runs Fortnite, you're like, okay, they know what they're doing. They probably know what they're doing. So yeah, I think that can't hurt anything. It's
intriguing. The reason I said it tied in, because I wanted to talk about, this is how big Epic and Fortnite have now become. An Epic would big anyway, but Fortnite, they obviously released those basically microtransactions llamas.
Yes.
And you could sort of get, I think it was in a certain, I don't know 100% sure because I stopped playing Fortnite, but I'm pretty sure in saying it was like a special game mode where you could actually buy, it was basically a loot box but shaped like a llama, and you would get weapons and stuff that would actually help you in the game, correct?
I know that's in the Save the World mode, not Battle Royale.
Yeah, that's right, in the Save the World mode, yeah. But it was actually things that would help you in-game as opposed to everything else in Fortnite, which is just aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, either way, the point is somebody challenged them on it and said that we don't we don't think this is cool. It's like gambling, which is, again, something we're going to talk about in 1 second. And amazingly, Epic actually went, all right, we'll make them see-through so you can see what it is. Now, the reason I think that is such a big deal is, A, it goes to show how much money Epic have, because, you know, the whole mystique and the whole mystery of that kind of stuff does help. There's no two ways about it. I think one of the reasons those things took off as well as they did, because people, it is like gambling. You're excited to see what you're going to get. But this then tied into something that happened with EA in Belgium. Obviously, Belgium ages ago decided that, you know, loot boxes and stuff like FIFA points were 100% gambling because you did not know what you were going to get, and therefore they wanted to stop. And EA, I believe today, or at least in the last 24 hours, have come out and agreed to stop. And this creates this whole other argument, because that now, I don't play FIFA at esports level, same with I don't play Fortnite in the way these people are. But from what I can work out, that essentially means now, if you are an esports player in Belgium, you're going to have to grind your way to get the benefits of using those FIFA things that are now gone from you, which ultimately puts you in a weaker position. But then the argument is, well, surely that we've established now in Belgium, it should start rolling out worldwide, and we should get to a point where we have a standard for all this stuff, and we should figure out if it is gambling. But I don't know if that's going to happen, which then, kind of bleeds into this whole other argument, a whole other story, what is, what isn't. But I do think it's massive that EA has actually, backed down on this. Because when you do back down once, if somebody else wants to make a fuss, you've put a situation in place. There's due precedence there. And it's hard to argue back about that. So I'm intrigued to see where all this is going.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe the tide is turning. Maybe the end is near for all this pay to win stuff. I doubt it, but I think it's an argument you could have, given that a big company has just happened to stop doing it.
I did love EA's statement. They said, because they're removing FIFA points, so, like you say, in Belgium, and they say, while we are taking this action, we do not agree with Belgian authorities' interpretation of the law. It's like, it's the law. What you don't have to agree with it. Like, I don't really understand that argument. It's like, I don't approve of you arresting me, to be honest. I don't like the law, really. Like, it's just, you just do what is the regulation in that country. It's not really... just do it. Like, it's just, you've got enough money, EA. You don't need Belgium to, that market's not going to dent you too much.
No, it's not. I'm more intrigued about how it affects sort of, esports players who now are at a disadvantage like that, because that to me, again, I don't watch enough esports. I respect esports, but to me, I look at it like a real sport, right? Because I think that's how it should be taken. It's still the art of competition. There's a guy that likes pro wrestling and bodybuilding, where it's kind of a similar thing. Like, what actually is the competition here? I think all competition can be related back to sports. But to me, it now seems unfair. Like, if we both turn up and I know that you've had to grind away because you're from Belgium, and because I'm in a country where EA hasn't been made to make these restrictions, that just seems crazy to me. And in a world where esports is trying to get more, it's massive anyway, but certainly it's trying to get more mainstream relevance, that kind of comes across to me like something that it should be more problematic than it is. I know if I was if I was a FIFA esports player, my eyebrows would be raised and be like, man, I don't know how we... to me, it's just not a good way to try and build esports for a more, worldwide demographic when these kind of laws they muddy the waters. They just do. To me, they really muddy the waters.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens to that. But the change may be coming. The change may absolutely be coming. People are fighting back. I never actually thought this would happen. I know Belgium tried to change it, but I thought EA would just be like, well, we don't care. It's not, we don't think that it is, so screw you. So, something doesn't hurt their back end, but it does change how... Well, for me, like I say, the fact that Fortnite did it too is different with Epic. If they're now buying up do we actually have an idea of how much they would have paid the Metroid developer to get this on board? I guess they're not talking about that.
I don't think anyone would be talking about that.
It must be a lot there, right? I mean, we've got to talk about 7 figures, surely.
Yeah, because I don't think Metro is scrambling for popularity. I think everyone's looking forward to Metro. I just think it's a solid position.
Oh, certainly PC players as well. I think it's certainly more of a PC audience. And also, that if Valve didn't give a shit, they wouldn't say anything. But the fact Valve has come out going, this is not cool, straight away says, we don't like this. So if you could stop it, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. The video game world changes. It changes all the time. So we'll see what happens. The only other thing I saw is that apparently Detective Pikachu 2 is in the works. I didn't even know that one Detective Pikachu had come out. I thought Detective Pikachu was a movie. So that's how much I stick up with Pokemon and everything. I know nothing about Pokemon. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, neither do I.
Well, I don't know. Is anything else coming out other than? Do we have any other big games in January, early February?
I know February 15th is the big day.
What's on February 15th? Well, I can't talk.
So it's Crackdown, Metro, Jump Force. It's another big one. Oh, that's going to really annoy me. And then we got Anthem as well. So February 15th games.
How the hell is Crackdown coming out on February 15th? We've heard nothing.
You Dawn.
Oh, that'll be all right. That's fine. I mean, that's like a spin-off, isn't it? So that will be all right.
Yeah.
But how the hell, genuinely, is Crackdown 3 coming out on February 15th? I haven't heard anybody talking about it. I haven't seen a preview. I've seen nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that not worrying? I guess it's. I don't know if they're going to delay it now.
I mean, it's just like it's been radio silence forever. So I mean, it's just I don't know. You probably would expect to see a bit more like hype around it in the weeks up to release, because it's only just over 2 weeks away, which is crazy. Because it's what Crackdown 3 always reminded me of one of those games like Shenmue and Last Guardian and Final Fantasy VII remake that it was never coming. Like it was always there, but it was never actually going to release. So to have it actually here, it's just like, oh.
I'm fascinated by that. I know nothing about it. Absolutely, apart from the obvious. I know nothing about it. It's supposed to be out in 2 weeks. Jeez, well, there we go. What is Jump Force as well? I'm looking at it now. An upcoming fighting game.
Anime, manga, greatest hits package, like Super Smash Bros. Essentially. So like a big old mishmash of anime and manga and Japanese characters fighting each other.
Oh man, it really is. One Piece, Naruto, Black Cover, Bleach, City Hunter, Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, geez, that is a big deal. Are people excited about that? Surely.
I think it's got like it's those audience, and then sort of like I'm not sure it's going to be a big mainstream success, but obviously for people who are into like that culture, I think obviously huge deal.
Oh yeah, massively. I literally had no idea. I mean, isn't it weird? You can be involved in something and something absolutely just passes you by.
Yeah, I guess when it's just totally not on your radar, though, it's just like.
That's mad. I had no idea. There was another game I wanted to talk about, and I'm frantically looking around my room. And frantically looking on my phone to try. There was some old game that I picked up and played, and now I'm worried I just made it up in my head. But I swear I didn't. I swear, but it's not coming to me. So I'm just going to assume that I didn't. I'm gonna move on from there. I did a lot of traveling this week, so I did go back to A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. I tell you, every time I play that game, absolutely. I mean, it could never properly surpass A Link to the Past. But obviously, Ocarina of Time is my number one. We talked about it before, and Link to the Past is number 2. But it is absolutely. I mean, it's the same game pretty much, but it is absolutely on par with that. I think that game is brilliant. It is a 10 out of 10 wonder, A Link Between Worlds, and I think in some ways it sucks unless there's rumours I haven't heard about, and I don't think there is. I would desperately, if anyone said, where do you want your next Zelda game, I would desperately want it on the 3DS. I think that kind of style of game. I could have forever, and yet I don't think I'm going to get it anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get it either.
No way. There's no way, because the more attention Nintendo focus on stuff like the 3DS, the more it muddies the waters when it comes to the Switch. That's the Switch, right? You can take it on the go.
Yeah, it is the handheld as well as the home console.
Does that mean the 3DS is dead?
Maybe.
I mean, it does, right? There's literally an article right here. Nintendo hasn't given up on the 3DS. Oh no, hasn't given up on 3D gaming and may even bring it to the Switch. 3D game. No one cares about that when it comes to the 3DS. I think it's dead, Also, random question. Did you ever have a PS Vita?
I have a PS Vita, yeah. I was playing it the other day.
Do you like it? Well, you must do.
I do, but only because it's got a lot of like the visual novels I like Danganronpa and Zero Escape and stuff.
Oh, right. Would you play anything else on it? Because someone mentioned to me that you can get them dirt cheap. And I was like,
you can play PS1 classics as well, like Spyro, which is great.
and
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. You actually play good versions of the ones that came out on the console. Have you been playing any more of the revamped Spyro?
Not really, to be honest. I'm not heard any push to go back because it's the same content. So obviously that's the point. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's like I know this like the back of my hand. So it's less of a like. It's more of a like, okay, cool, because it's not like Resident Evil in the sense it's a total perspective change. It's just getting everything and just pushing it through a 2019-ometer. You know what I mean? So it's exactly the same content, and that's fine. That's good, and I will probably go back to it. But I mean, I know it's all there for me to enjoy when I want it, like a comfy pair of socks that have just gotten more comfy.
Now that you've got it then, and you know what Capcom's done, would you have rather Sony did that, or do you actually think you're happy with just an updated
Nah. It's good as it is. And when I forget about it, I don't know, in 20 years, I'll come back to it and be like, damn, that's good. We need a remake of this again.
Do you think, given that was very successful, and that obviously the whole Skylanders thing is now dead, we'll get a proper sequel?
What, to Spyro?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think people are in the mindset to make a game like that anymore, because they were very of their time, like, PlayStation 1 3D platformers. I think it would lose something if you tried to make it in today, because you'd either try too hard to go back to where it was and it wouldn't be genuine, or you'd either try to bring it into the modern age and then it would falter just as it did with the Spyro games that came after the PS1 games. So I think just leave it. It's fine. You've done your duty, and now just leave both of them alone.
Getting another Crash Bandicoot game though. Who the hell wanted that? And yet they're making a brand new Crash Bandicoot game in 2019.
Yeah, that's a PS1 game though, so they know what people want. They don't want new games. They want the old Crash Bandicoot games. Just like Crash Bash will be next.
I still can't believe they're remaking Crash Nitro Kart. What? Yeah. But I'm biased. I don't like Crash Bandicoot. So. And
Sonic Racing Team Racing or something like that. That's the new one that's coming out.
Is that out?
No, it's coming out this year.
Oh, man, who wants to? No, I shouldn't say that. Some people. I remember I reviewed the first one. It was kind of in May. I reviewed the first one, Super Sonic, whatever the hell it was. Sonic and Sega All Stars Wrestling, and I thought it was all right. And I said that around a guy that really liked Sega. I think I gave it a 6 or a. Actually, I'm sure I can tell you. Let me find it. It was in Games TM review. Sonic and one thing to do on a podcast. All Stars. But anyway, my point being, whatever I gave it, he was not happy with, and he went absolutely ballistic at me. If
you ask who wants this insert name of Sonic game, there's always someone who wants that. So Sonic fans just want anything. So
they don't want that movie.
I'm sure people do.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I want the movie. Well, anyway, I didn't give it a good score. And people, that was a good score. It's a 6 or a 7. That's fine. Scores are broken too. We don't need to talk about it. Anyway, that's enough waffling from me. Sam, you got anything else you want to talk about? Or is that it? We're done.
No, I think we're done.
We're done. That's it. That's over. We're done. So what you do is you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Google, whatever the hell you use. You can come follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Simon316. Sam is at Sam Bishop, 3 P's on a 1. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Right, there we go. I got it right every time. YouTube.com/The Minute Report rules. You can also see that daft video I made. Go watch it, please. I wanted more people to watch that. I thought it was funny. It's all right if you hate it too, but go watch it anyway. Once you've clicked, you've clicked. The podcast will also be up there too. Again, all supported by Patreon.com/Simon Miller 316. If you've got any question, get in touch. We'll answer it. Maybe soon, when there's a dead week, we'll do a big Q&A episode as well. They always seem to go down well. People love asking. Everyone always asks, what old game would you love to bring back? That is the number one question that always gets asked. But you can ask it. It's all good. And we'll answer it. Sam, thanks as always for your time.
My pleasure as always.
And we'll talk to you all again next week.